Welcome everyone. Today's hot topic are dishonest ballroom dance instructors. For the record, I am not talking about all of them. Most are kind-hearted and people with integrity, but there's always a rotten apple in the bunch, and you may have one or even more, unfortunately, in your studio. So I'm going to share some of those little kind of situations I've encountered. And you know what? If something smells fishy, always, sniff around and see maybe if someone has a motive to saying something to you. Okay, guys? Behind the scenes, yes, ballroom dancers have lied to the studio owner. They've lied to each other. These things do happen. I'll give you an example. I have had a professional dancer, leaser, in my studio. Actually, one leaser and one employee offer financial kickbacks, bribes basically, if they would refer incoming clients to them under the table, like siphon all the new students to them, which they were not supposed to do. I, as the studio owner, have I hired front desk people for the explicit purpose of them not favoring teachers, but referring people calling in to the instructor who would best meet that student's needs. For example, beginning level instructor would get a beginning level student, because that beginning level student does not need to pay $200 for a 45-minute private. It's not worth their money. Or if a competitor calls and they do international Latin, then my front desk, usually when not being bribed, would refer said competitor or wannabe competitor to the teacher that would specialize in that style so they could get the most value for their money's worth. I also had an instructor bribe my front desk staff. They got a kickback for every private that they took that they did not put on the books to pay their floor fees. So one of many ways we for me as a former ballroom dance studio owner, really struggled, to keep everything running smoothly. There are teachers, sadly, who lie to their students, and this can take place in any number of ways. I'll just give you an example that took place in my studio, and I did read this person the riot act, and here goes. So he lost one of his students to another instructor in our studio. These things do happen, and you know what, students? Don't trade teachers for no reason at all. If someone dumps you and you're a pro, it doesn't mean you're a bad teacher. There could be any number of reasons. I do know the reasons why this person switched. I don't want to share that because I don't want to unintentionally out the individual pro involved. But straight up, this happened. He, in turn, told this student that it's my studio policy that if someone switches to another pro, they're not allowed to take lessons in my studio. Okay, first of all, I would have told this student to switch teachers if they asked for my advice. It was a good change for them, first of all. Second of all, I, as the studio owner, have vested financial interest in everyone continuing to take lessons in my studio, or I would have to close my doors. I couldn't stay in business. Not only did he lie to the student about that, he also lied and said, our studio policy is that, our studio policy and my gown designers make. He had referred this student to a specific gown designer who, I should add, got a financial kickback for doing that, but that's another video. By the way, if your instructor does recommend someone, you might ask, hey, do you get a percentage of that? That might encourage you to go with them more, but I do believe in full disclosure when referring business to people. Anyway, And he said, our policy is you may not purchase costumes anymore from this designer if you switch from me. And it could be because that person was sponsored, but either way, guys, that's not how costume sponsors work, to be clear. So he lied about this too. And so the student, I don't even remember how this got around to me, but I think the student may have asked to meet with me and say, hey, this just seems really uncomfortable to me, and I love taking here, and it seems like this would be a better instructor for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that to you. These are vicious lies. I can't believe he would pull me into this stuff. Like, no, do not lie and pretend that I'm even part of this sham. Straight up lied. Apparently to more than one student. This is just tip of the iceberg. It's the first I found out about. But I assure you, I gave a call to every one of these former students and told them the truth. And I told him, the instructor, that I did this. And if I caught him lying again, he was out of my studio. He's lucky I didn't kick him out that day. That's hideous. So anyway, and he apologized in person and thoroughly in writing. And to my knowledge, it didn't happen again. He got his little spanking, but it does happen, and it's real shady. If you hear something shady, do a little investigation. In my opinion, the owner of the studio is always a safe place to go. All the owners I know are pretty upright people. They have vested interest in peace within their studio. I would be shocked if they were to out you, so to speak, to that pro. Or in the case of this student, I said, you know what? Two things going to happen here. I'll leave it in your court. Do you want me to kick him out, or do you want me to correct him and tell him we had this conversation and he's not allowed to talk to you again? She opted for choice B, and that's what I did, and it ended up working out just fine. And in fact, just to make it easier on all parties involved, I just ensured that when I booked her floor time with this other pro, that this other pro was not there, just so there would be minimal discomfort for everyone involved. Okay. I have a worse story for you, again, in my own studio. In case you didn't know, I owned the largest ballroom dance studio in the United States for over 15 years. So there's a certain economy of scale here. This doesn't happen all over the place, but when I literally have more than 2,000 clients in the door every month and 30 teachers, stuff gonna happen. So this teacher, mind-boggling to me. Okay, so again, lied to his students. Straight up lied, okay? Like many pros, and he was a good pro. He had students that eventually became teachers. Now, usually inside of a ballroom dance studio, most teachers actually never turn pro. They just assist in the classes for free, which is fine. This particular pro had two students who progressed to the point that they could teach their own classes without their coach there. And yes, there are probably teachers within your own studio that are taking with other pros there. The other pro is probably a more skilled instructor, or maybe they just specialize in a certain style that your pro wants to brush up on. In this case, these students started with this pro as beginning level amateurs. So he told me to tell them at that point, he was an employee and all of my teachers there were employees. And as a matter of fact, at that time, all of my people were employees for probably the first 10 years I owned my studio. And then I allowed contractors in it, independent contractors in addition to the employees. So I always paid my employees 50% commission, meaning the studio kept half to pay for the front desk and such, and their, health insurance, this sort of thing. And the instructor took home half in their paycheck. He told me that I should lie to, let me say that more clearly, lie to his students who were teaching their own classes and say that I paid 40% commission and then pay him the remaining 10%. So he would get 20%, steal 20% of each of their paychecks because he's God's gift? I don't know. If he has nothing to do with the class and they have earned that privilege of being a professional, this is insane to me. And you know what? If that's fine, if that's your studio's policy, but don't ask me to lie about it. And if you want to lie about it, that's your own studio. I would never do that. I think lying about anything is a bad idea. Whatever lie you say is just going to come bite you in the butt in the future. And then no one will believe you in the future even when you're telling the truth. Waste of time. So yes, these crazy kind of things do happen. I have some crazier lying stories than this to share with you, but hopefully interesting too. I've gone over that 10-minute mark, so I'm going to say toodles for today, but I look forward to seeing you tomorrow with some more fun, hopefully helpful ballroom dance stories. And always comment if you liked the video, didn't like the video, disagree, have your own story. Love to hear it. I will see you soon. Thanks for joining me. Bye, guys.